best light. Sorry. So in its best light, it needs to be, and that is about your photography. So it's important, no matter what the home looks like, that you present it in its best light. If it is a vacant home and your seller is not willing to spend the money on staging, then consider doing virtual staging. Generally costs about $50 a photo, and it can really make the difference of how that's presented. Make sure that you label it as virtual staging, and I like to do it before and after. So I show the rooms with the staged furniture, and then I show the room empty afterwards. But it's, you know, it's like a dating app. If you don't see, you know, the picture is what somebody sees first, and whatever is that first picture is going to make them actually continue to swipe through those pictures or go on to the next listing. So that's super important. I get really involved on the photography side. I actually invested in staging furniture last year. So I do that. If I can charge for it, I will. If I can't, sometimes I will use it as a carrot to get the listing and take on that expense, which, you know, once I purchase the furniture, for me, it's really about the moving costs of things back and forth. But again, those are business write-offs for me. So I found that that's really helped me in my business. And I like to design and do that, so it's fun. So again, back to photography, it's your job to be at the home when your photographer comes, and your job to talk to the seller about decluttering. You know, I always try to say no more than 3 things on any one surface. If they are people that have stuff everywhere, then you have to gently coach them into putting it maybe all into the garage or all into a room. And that's really important as well. And if it's a real fixer, like I just had one that was a wallpaper Lollapalooza. There was literally a different wallpaper from the 80s in every room. It was a beautiful property. It had, you know, tennis court outside, pool, but it was just wallpaper everywhere. And it was hi, it was vacant. You know, so I staged it, and I staged it with modern furniture to give the buyers an idea of what they could do in the home instead of focusing on what it didn't have. Do you know what I mean? And we ended up getting 50 over what it says $1.3 million listing. So I think those things are really important. And then marketing online, I have a pretty big LinkedIn base from my old career. So I always make sure that I'm posting there as I get the listing, as I put it into active, as I'm doing open houses, you know, and you're updating that on a regular basis, as well as Facebook. I have to admit, I'm bad on Instagram, trying to get there. But again, it's your target market. If you've got a condo that you know is going to be probably a first-time buyer, then Instagram is going to be a lot more important. If you've got, you know, like Casey, your $3 million home, you're likely more to get people to view it because it's probably somebody more established or older, and they're likely to be on Facebook or LinkedIn or a friend of a friend, so on and so forth. So I think that's really important that you understand what your target market is. And market accordingly to that. Heather does a great job here. I mean, we have the services here. It's not expensive. If you've got time, she puts together really beautiful flyers. We have a large mailing group that you can mail out to other agents with each of those. So I try to do that with each one as well. Really, it's just about how you present it. But the most important thing, I think, are those photographs. And those first 2 or 3 photographs need to be pretty. They really do. Even if the house isn't. I think it's a mistake if the house isn't to put just the yard or the pool or the grounds, because that is the first thing I think of as an agent. Is like, oh, well, this is going to be bad.
I agree. Yeah.
It's the first thing you think of. It's like, oh, this is not good.
if the first 15 pictures of the backyard and the front of the yard, you know, like, all right, let's get to the actual inside of the house. I know it's going to be bad.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really important is the BAC. If you're only getting 4%, then you need, again, you need to decide up front. A lot of people just want to split that to the buying side, to the selling side. I always make sure that I give 2.5 to the buying side, no matter what. And I also always do variable. If the client is willing to have dual agency, I will do a variable, so that if I write the offer, I have an advantage for my clients, and I use that as a carrot when I'm talking to unattached buyers that are coming through my open house. I write your offer for 1.3 million. It's worth, 0.5% or 1%, whatever that variable is, more to that seller because they're not paying that commission if we do a dual agency. So those are some of the things I do with that. Questions, comments? Anything, Casey, that you found that's worked?
Do you find yourself using storage containers a lot for people who technically have a lot of clutter and everything like that, or you just mostly try to put it in their garage or somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, if they've got a garage, that's the best place. Or if it's a 4-bedroom house, take 1 bedroom and pile it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously not the master, the important bedroom. Or if they're willing, take longer to take it to market. I mean, I have had listings for 3 or 4 months while I've waited for it to be ready,
Yeah.
If it needs to be painted and they're willing to do it, then wait. It's better for you, to do that. Secure the listing, obviously, but exclude it from MLS. Market it internally if you want to. I don't know if you got, I'm sure you do, because I get them, we get texts all the time from flippers, so that are looking for off-market properties. I have actually written offers for stuff that's been off market. I haven't gotten accepted on that because this particular house I think was worth more than what they offered. But don't ignore those if you've got something that's a fixer or something that off market, because they are real. They will send you, they know what to send you, they will send you the appropriate information immediately. So I wouldn't ignore it.
Yeah, if they're not that number right now, they might be at that number, 4 months from now when they need to sell. So it's that might be a good something to hold on to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, like to piggyback off that, what's worked for me as well is just really, since we have so many resources, especially with that new site, all the vendors and everything like that, if it does need a little bit of work, or if there's needs to be painting done, or the gutters need to be replaced, or any of that kind of stuff, it's just really good to demonstrate your value and tell you, like, hey, I have vendors for all of this stuff. Like, we just need to do a little bit of touch-ups to make the house a little bit more presentable, and then for the pictures and everything like that. So it gives the sellers more confidence to know that you got things handled, and like where you have the contacts, and you're confident enough to get this done.
100%, very important. I mean, I personally get hands-on. I don't mind, hey, Mr. Seller, I'll go meet, your vendor if you can't do it, stuff like that. I mean, that's really up to the person, but I try to make sure, because I am a control freak, admittedly, I try to make sure that anything that I can affect to come out in a positive way, I do, because I know it benefits me in the end, because I, get more money and I end up with great referrals. So many of my clients now are referrals from other clients that I, just have done a good job for. So one I will mention, because it was really interesting, I got a call the first of the year from a client that I sold the property and then a new house, so listing and bought the new house. And he's like, hey, Linda, do you have my closing statements? I can't find them. I need them for my taxes. And I'm like, yes, I do. And I sent, found them and sent them to him immediately. And at the end, I said, hey, Nick, referrals are always welcome if you know anybody that's interested and, or is, got something that they want to buy or sell. And he wrote me back. He said, you know what, I might have somebody. And a day later, he introduced me to, one of his VPs that had the house in Porter Ranch for sale, and I went and met and ended up getting a listing at $1.3 million. So if I hadn't just tagged on that, hey, referrals are welcome, I wouldn't have gotten it because I didn't ask. So we have to always remember to remind people that we are looking for that. And I also put a note for myself for next year, tax season. Everyone that I did a transaction with this year, I'm going to pull their closing statement, email them and send it to them as just a touch point. Hey, in case you need this for your taxes, hope you're doing well. If you haven't talked to them, which you should, but just in case, it's another way to connect with people. And then ask, if you don't ask.
I have a question. So do you think your previous career, what was your previous career again?
I'm a professional salesperson. I sold feature production, post-production equipment to feature film and television for 35 years.
Okay.
So
Do you think
absolutely, I leverage more than 50% of my clients are my old clients.
That's what my question was. Do you think, like, would you attest that like a lot of your clients now to, and the referrals now for that?
But it took time. Like my first clients that I got my first year out were I did other people's open houses literally every weekend that I could. And my first buyer from one of those, and then my first listing was also from doing one of those open houses, the rat house, I called it. So, and again, it was just somebody that came in, lived in the neighborhood, said, hey, I've got a rental property and then a sell in a couple of months. What do you think it would be worth? And, I went home and emailed and did comps and then just stayed in touch. Took like 3 months, but every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I would send new comps, and he would reply sometimes and not reply sometimes, but I kept at it until the day came where he called and said, okay, we're ready to list it. Come on over. So it's just consistent and being persistent without being, pushy. You have to balance that. So, and I always find that offering information is the best way to be persistent without being pushy. So that's, so if you can sit somebody's open house, great. If you can't, I think that you should be going to other people's open houses and asking the listing agent if it's okay to take pictures or videos and post them. So that first year, I made it seem like I had listing after listing after listing because every weekend I was posting some other person's open house that I was doing. So I would use list reports and, put together a flyer and post that to my Facebook and to LinkedIn. So even if you're not busy, make it look like you are. And it's interesting now because now I got comments from non-real estate agents about, I just had on the condo I listed, I had one of my old, somebody I used to work with in the old business comment, oh, this one's going to go for more. So they kind of start to get invested in what you're doing. You know what I mean? So, don't, even if you're not busy, make it look like you are. And I don't think there's a listing agent out there that's going to tell you, no, you can't take pictures or videos, if you go to those open houses. Start a service if you have like a city that you like or want to market or work in. Almost all of the cities or homeowners associations, have a group that you can join on Facebook. Just do, oh, hey, I'm doing the open house tour in Westlake today. Come with me, that kind of thing, and do your posting. And over time, none of this happens overnight. You have to be, consistent and persistent with it. But over time, you will have people that reach out to you that say, hey, I'm interested in buying or I'm interested in selling. Can you come talk to me?
I agree with that a lot. I mean, the consistent posting really just makes it so that you're like an authority when it comes to real estate, and people automatically, keep you top of mind when they think about that. So
And
just,
that,
I don't even have to, yeah, it's just like to the point where you don't even have to bring up real estate. If you talk to a friend, they usually bring it up, which is like ideal because you don't feel like you're, trying to like lead the conversation that way.
right, I mean, if, ladies, if you get mani-pedis, ask your manicure, if you're someplace where you go regularly and they know you, ask your manicurist, if you can put cards there, they'll let you do it. My manicurist, every time I'm in and somebody's looking to do something with real estate, she always introduces me, so it's just top of mind stuff that you need to do, and then be patient. I mean, it's not gonna happen overnight, and you have to be consistent with doing it. I know that first year, I probably worked, I don't even know how many open houses I did for other people, but I got, 2 or 3 clients out of it, and which is great, but I might have worked every weekend for 6 weeks before I got one, you know what I mean? But I understood that it was the persistence of doing that. And then it also gave me the marketing material to remind people in my sphere that I'm a real estate agent.
Yeah, because everything is perception. So like when we're talking about, getting the list, getting the appointment, because that's the first thing, right? Getting the appointment, going on the appointment and securing it, then marketing it, so on and so forth. But people want to see how you do business, but it like, putting the videos on and the pictures and stuff like that gave everyone the perception that, wow, she's experienced, she's there, she's in front of, listing all these homes, so on and so forth. So it's really making yourself visible. And then, I love that you say consistency and persistency, because I say it all the time, but it's true. That's what we have to do, right, in order to build that momentum.
And you have to find everybody can tell you, oh, do this, do that. You have to find what's comfortable for you, how you present yourself, the things that you say. Some people don't have no problem going and knocking on doors. Some people are very shy and don't want to do it, some people like to talk to other people and some people don't. So you have to find what's comfortable for you and where you feel confident in your presentation. When you triggered something, Casey, on something that you said on this listing that I got this referral on, I got there and I always bring comps with me, but I'm always careful not to lead with them, because almost always the seller has a number in mind. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's not good. But if you immediately come out and say this number, or in this case, he told me, well, there was an agent, because I asked, what do you think the number is? He said, I'd really be happy if we could get 1.3. This was the wallpaper Lollapalooza. And I said, okay. And he had a real estate agent that was in, and he said, well, I said that to her, and she said, oh no, don't do that. That's bad. You have to do that. Okay. And in my head, I came in my head with from the comps and what he had told me about the house. So I kind of knew what I was going to expect. I had looked on, on Google. I, at least saw satellite of the property. I had an idea, of what it looked like. And then he had a description of it, that it was dated inside. So I knew what I was going into. So I had an idea of 1.275 in my head when I walked in, but now I know he wants 1.3. So if it's not the right number, then you have to gently walk them through why it's not the right number, and not say, oh no, and I usually lead with, well, if it's really what the market is, and I would prefer to list it under versus over, because if we list it slightly under, the market will dictate, we'll get multiple offers, we could drive it up to that price. This other agent had suggested significantly lower. I felt comfortable on that 1.25 to 1.75, and that's kind of where we ended up. And we, we ended up, and I staged it, which made a difference, even though it was wallpaper. And I absorbed that cost. He didn't want to pay the money, and I knew if I spent probably cost me about $1,800 in moving costs and then my time, right? So I knew if I staged it, we would get to that price. And we ended up with 10 offers, one which I wrote at guess what price? 1.3, because I knew that was the magic number. Client was willing. It was actually the first offer written, which is unusual, but it was. And this couple had been trying to buy a home for a year. She literally came in tears. The very first day I was in the middle of staging it, just gone into coming soon, and she like cried, please help me. She sent her parents over, and the parents are like, please help them. And so that was the number. Now, we had most of the other offers were either below or just slightly above. So there was nothing, the highest was 1.275. And the client really wanted to counter and do, stuff back and forth. And I said, look, if we had 10 offers that were clustered close or even near 1.3, which, I had a 1% variable, so it was worth even more, 13,000 more, you know what I mean? So I said to the seller, if we even had anything close, but all the other offers are clustered way below, I think we need to take this offer. And that's what he ended up doing. And we were right, because I think if we had countered, we might have lost the one, because they had been so jaded by the year of trying to find a place. And so that's what happened. And then it appraised, which was great, and we closed. And we made people very, very happy that had been looking for a home for a year. So, but don't say, so be careful. Don't lead with what you think, because you need the client to tell you what they think, because it's almost always not right. Rarely is it right, and then that's where pictures come in. Well, let's walk through what's been sold, and they'll go, oh, but this one is listed for, and then you have to explain to them, no, it's how it's, what the selling price was. People can list for anything and talk about appraisals and what that means if it doesn't appraise, and so on and so forth.
So when you go on your listing presentation, so I have a couple different questions. One is like, what we talked about marketing, really the photography aspect. So if you were to lay out your marketing plan for them, which obviously includes the staging and decluttering and photos, what else do you share with them on your marketing plan?
Yeah, well, I would share with them that, we have a extensive database that we email to, which I think is important, which are mostly agents, I realize, the client too. So I talk about that. I usually will show some of my prettier homes, and not, or things that I've staged, or something where I really got somebody to declutter, and I have one that I'm thinking of that was in Acton. That was like when I walked in, I had an oh no moment, you know what I mean? And because I was there with the photographer, we moved stuff. It just was not ready, and I made sure that I didn't have all that crap in those photos, because I knew how important it was. And then by the time we actually hit market a week or so later, they had gotten it all cleaned up. But it's a hard conversation to have. It's really a hard conversation to have with people, but it's so important, and it will make the difference of it selling immediately, multiple offers versus sitting on the market. It makes the difference. People do not have vision. They do not have vision. Most people. Ladies, you're being very quiet.
So we have any questions so far for Linda?
No questions, but that's all very helpful.
Yeah, I think until such time, we should get to a point soon where listing agents will need posts for their open houses, because we're seeing more and more properties on the market. Work them and do your sign-in sheets, ask people if they have agents, and if not that house, let me show you something else tomorrow or tonight, or, and then it's follow-up. But in the meantime, I think that if you go out to open houses and post those to your social media, that you'll get the perception to your people in your sphere that you're active, you're busy, and that stuff's happening. And I think that matters, especially as a new agent. They don't, sometimes it's difficult for people to put their trust in somebody that doesn't have the experience. So you have to give them the perception that you do have that experience.
What about, you mentioned about the, sometimes with the decluttering, that they're difficult conversation because people are attached to their beautiful or ugly furniture or this, that,
Yeah.
it's all in the presentation. So can you share with us an example, perhaps of how what that conversation really.
Yeah,
looks-
well, I usually make it, we want to depersonalize, so I start there. So the family, like if somebody's got 850 million family photos, on I say we really, we want somebody to walk in here and picture their photos of their, not yours. So it would be best if we can, put those away. And honestly, if they don't do it, I would do it before my open house. I arrive early and put stuff in drawers. I've done that, or under seats, and then I put them back afterwards. So, I mean,
That's so funny.
but you have to, you don't want to insult people. You don't want to say you live poorly, or tell them that this is a pigsty. You can't do any of that. You don't want to do any of that, because then you're insulting people.
So then how do you?
I think that I would get the listing signed first and then have those. I don't think I would lead with that in my listing appointment. I think that would be, I get the listing and then I have that conversation. Casey's smiling. Right? But
Yeah, then you can be honest with them.
yeah, well, and you honest to a point. I kind of try to do the.
Yeah, no, depends on how close you are with them.
We're trying to appeal to the buyer. We want this home. We want them to imagine themselves in this home. And the way that we do that is by depersonalizing the space. We take the family photos away. We take a few of the tchotchkes. If there's some things, let's, try to limit to 3 items on any surface. That's kind of what I do. I usually do that. Well, if we were staging, that's what the stager would do, stuff like that. So don't make it about them. We make it about how we're trying to present it to the buyers and make it, and so that the buyers can imagine that in their space.
And I don't know if you've done this too, but usually when we're doing the whole pricing conversation, I show them homes that aren't staged and are have clutter in their pictures, and show that they've been on the market for a while, and some homes similar to theirs, and so this is a home that hasn't done anything, and you can see it's 100 days on the market. I don't want you to end up that way, so I advise that we do some of this declutter and that kind of stuff.
I would say that's a really great strategy. It's funny though, some people just think their home is, it's sometimes there is a point though where you're just gonna have to let it go, because there are some people that really think their home looks way better than the pictures that you're showing them, and they don't, and I always, especially on the pricing standpoint, I usually can convince them that if the market will bear a higher price, we'll get it, which is true, especially the last year and a half. That may change, in the future, we might be having a different conversation, but it was pretty easy to sell over whatever you listed for the last, year and a half. As a matter of fact, people just automatically, were writing.
Yep.
It wasn't a do you have offers, it's like when are offers due, which I thought was hysterical,
Oh, absolutely.
not do you have offers, so
Yeah.
what are they due? So yeah, I just have to be cautious with those conversations. And if they're interviewing other agents, I like to ask the pros and cons, or even if I don't get the listing, I will go back and ask why. What could I have done differently? You know, help me so that I'm better the next time, you know? And that's happened. And, you know, one was like, oh, I love you, Linda. I know you from the video, but you don't have experience with Skynet. I'm like, okay, William, you know, it just wasn't a true statement, but whatever, you know, and you have to be gracious and say thank you, wish them luck, you know what I mean? And I sometimes will even follow up afterwards when I see it sold and congratulate them, you know.
That's fine.
Well, you don't want to burn a bridge, you
No.
know, because you never know. You just never know when they might come back to you or, you know, refer you. So, but you can always learn. You might have like if Miss, oh no, had followed up, she would understand that you can't, when somebody has a price in mind, you can't just dismiss it without some logic and reasoning behind it.
Well, you just know now that it's an objection and just have to have a workaround, like you said. So,
What other like objections are you guys getting? Is commissions, you know, percentage starting to be a struggle, or? Don't all talk at once.
I know.
Any listings?
One more time, Nicole, we missed
What was that?
Have any listings, so I can't really speak to getting from.
have you had a buyer's offer accepted yet, Nicole? Nicole? Uh-oh.
Nicole. Yeah, so are you, go ahead, Casey.
No, I was just gonna say, like, well, if there were to be any like common objections for the listing appointment, it would be the pricing and the commission, basically. Those are the main ones.
Yeah, there's so many advertisements where it's like, you can sell your home for as little as 2%, and then you have to really explain to people that's actually just the buying side commission. They're not talking about what they're gonna charge you, or it's just the selling side commission, not what you're gonna offer the buyer. There are tough conversations to have, and you should, before you walk into a listing, know what you're gonna do and not gonna do, you know what I mean? And have a justification for it. I have offered lesser services for people who want to cut my commission, but I have not yet ever cut the buyer side. I think it's really important because I think agents will not come to your listing if it's 1.5 to 2%, you know.
Yeah. And then two, you know, when you guys are, you know, dialing for dollars, right? Reaching out, you know, to Linda's point as well regarding reach out to the people that already know you, that know you, trust you, love you, right? Those are the easiest people to have the conversations with. If, you know, who do they know that's looking to buy, sell, or invest, right? So you're just staying top of mind. And then when you get a potential seller on, right, we always want to get to their motivation, ask the pre-qualifying questions, right? So you know if they're a ready, willing, and able buyer, ready, willing, and able seller, right? And also part of one of the other reasons for the pre-qualification questions is so then you come prepared to the listing presentation, knowing what the objections are going to be.
You need to be the expert. I mean, you do. You need to have done your research on the market. You need to understand the pricing, what's sold, what's listed in the neighborhood. You know, it helps. You know, I do stuff out of my neighborhood, but since I've lived in the San Fernando Valley for, you know, all my 61 years, I feel like I'm a pretty good expert on most of the areas. So I always am in my zone, you know, when I'm talking about something in the valley, because I know, you know, I know it much better than I would TO or, you know, or Ventura but don't limit yourself with that. I mean, I still have sold in those areas. I just, you know, had a referral from an old client that was actually a lease, and I, I've done a few. I know some of us don't want to do them because you don't make a lot of money, but this was really interesting because it was a couple, again, she called me crying. They had just had a baby. She was overwhelmed. They had a flood in their apartment. They're in an Airbnb and she can't find anything, for this 2,600 a month. Could I help? Dash said I would. That's my old client. I said, of course I will. Naomi. And we went out and looked at a couple of leased properties. And then she commented to me that they really felt they could buy something, but they just didn't have enough down payment. And I'm like, well, there's, new buyer programs. And I said, what about either of your parents? Are they in a position, to help you with a little bit? We don't need that much, to do a down payment. If you can qualify for the monthly, that's really the important thing. And it never occurred to them to ask their parents. Well, guess what? They went and asked, and one parent gave them 50, and then they went to the other parent, and the other parent matched the 50. So suddenly people that were renting have $100,000 to put down on a condo. And we went from, what was going to be a lease to a $500,000 condo in Lake Forest, Orange County. I did a lot of driving, but and they're happy as clams. And it was not easy, A, to find something for 500,000, and B, in Orange County, and it took several months, and it took, constant communication, but in the end we got it. And they're happy little plans, so sometimes you just have to think out of the box. And if I hadn't asked that question, it wouldn't have occurred to them to ask their parents, and it turned out really well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, because everything, remember, we always want to come from a place of curiosity, right? And ask, we're the professionals, and ask the questions. And even if they're difficult questions, because we are there to assist them and to find out if it is indeed a good time for them to buy, or, in this instance that we're talking about, listing, right? And then also utilize, to help with your pricing conversation, right? You want to be able to show them the statistics. We go through statistics a lot of times in, the team meetings, etc. But when you're on the MLS, go to the stats section, and you can look in the particular area, right? What is the trend? What is the trend of number of listings, days on market, prices going up, going down, what have you? I mean, there's these graphs, right? The visuals for them to see, oh my gosh, listings are coming down or sales are going down, whatever the case may be. So then that helps with your pricing strategy, right? Not only to, regarding the staging or decluttering and stuff like that, because that will add value, right? Or if there's any improvements that need to be made, but, knowing the statistics, year over year change, the month over month, like right now with everything happening so quickly, especially during July, right? But look in the last 30 days, right? Because there are sometimes we were going,
Maybe with your comp,
yeah, instead of, 60, go, just, hey, what sold the last 30 days? Because even now, we have to look at our competition, the actives under contracts, pendings, and then there may be a shift already in something that just closed 30 days ago, because then it actually sold 60 days ago or so.
right. But it took 30 days to close it.
Yeah.
To win under contract before. I try to, because I live in West Hill, so I look pretty much every day at the listings in West Hill. And I use the metrics of the numbers of examples. So 2 months ago, and pretty much through the pandemic, we were at somewhere between 25 and 35 homes on the market in West Hills consistently. Before pandemic, it was 90. And I would spout those statistics to people then, but guess what? In the last 2 months, it's gone from 35 to 90 again. So we're back to normal levels of inventory. And people would always ask, well, why is everything so crazy? It's because there aren't homes available. We didn't have homes on the market. There was not enough inventory to support the buying pool. And that's why it was such a crazy seller's market. you know, that's starting to change, but it's not completely changed yet. So we're back to the good ones are gonna sell quick, you know, and the ones where they take the time to paint, stage, you know, present it in its prettiest light are the ones that are gonna go first and still for, you know, multiple offers, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's all on you to take control of that and to, you know, keep control of the narrative with the seller as well as how that listing gets presented to the buyer pool.
Yeah. And you want to do your best, right, to price it appropriately out of the gate. I mean, because now more than ever, during this craziness of the last year and a half or 2 years, right, we have to price it right.
Yeah.
Right, it has to be priced, and we have to price it a little bit ahead of the market, really be anticipating where the market's going, and that's by looking at your statistics and really truly understanding in you know, at a micro level of where that particular neighborhood is going. We can have the macro of, you know, Los Angeles area or Woodland Hills or da, right? But you are able to see what the personality is or the trend is in that particular neighborhood, right? Because some areas are different.
Yeah, and that's, you should, if you don't know the area, you should be careful when you're doing your comps. You know, I could just use Northridge and Porter Ranch as, you know, an example. When you do your 1 mile search and you get Northridge homes in, you know, as a comp, they're not really comps because stuff in Porter Ranch goes for more money. You know what I mean? It would be like the same with Calabasas, Woodland Hills. And so you have to really know your markets, because if you walk into a listing and show them comps and it's not, you know, their city or they know that, then you're dead already. So that I never lead with what I think the price is. I always ask them what they think it is. And if they don't want to tell me right away, I go on to another conversation and then come back to, okay, you know, after we've discussed all this, really, where do you think, you know, because if they think it's 1.5 and you're thinking 1.2, boy, you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and that happens. It really does, you know, and then they're like, thank you, no, thank you, bye. You know what I mean? And you're like, what happened? Like, I'm sure Miss, oh no, is wondering why she didn't get the list.
Oh, I thought that's so funny.
It's not though, but it's true.
It is
You know?
true. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just going through like old notes, you know, regarding different listing strategies, and it's always the same. It's always the same, right? And sometimes we forget or maybe overcomplicate it on, you know, who we should speak with. I like this one quote that I just came across. You don't win sales by playing defense. Right, so you always want to be on the offense and like I said, having the questions, asking the questions, being curious.
Yeah, the client is always right, even when they're wrong. So figure out how to make them right.
Yeah. And then people, you know, because you, like, so you always want to be talking to your database all the time, right? Not like daily, but, you know, reaching out to them once a month, because out of your database too are your raving fans that will be able to help you get those listing, you know, the listing appointments. And then you can sign up on referral sites. You know, just you want to set yourself up for success and have every opportunity to be able to get in front of these sellers. So we have referral sites, and then also don't discount expired listings either. Right, those are going to be coming. I haven't checked the stats to see what that's been looking like, what that's been trending like over the last 3 months, but you know, check out the expired listings. And then remember, you're the consultant, right? You're not there just to go get their listing, even though you want it, right? But it's like, hey, how can I help you? Are you in need of a HELOC, right? Or, well, it'll eventually probably sometime next year be in refinance mode again, especially for the people that may be purchasing now, right? So, but you want to find out, hey, how can I help you? Because you are the consultant, so on and so forth, right? And another big one, right, are the non-owner occupied. You know, the people that own the rentals. Cause they may be like, oh shit, I missed the top, maybe it's a good time for me to sell, right? Or, you never know, but there's definitely different pools of people that you guys can be reaching out to and speaking with on a daily basis.
Don't be afraid of the word no.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people don't ask the question because they're afraid of the answer. The worst anyone's ever gonna tell you is no.
Yeah.
So if you know that going in, and no doesn't usually mean no. No usually means I don't understand, I'm on the edge, or I need more information, so it's just something that I've lived by in my, 35 plus years as a salesperson. I consider it a profession. It is a profession. If you cannot be afraid of the answer, because if you are, you're never going to ask the question. And if you don't ask the question, you don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are we doing on time? Any questions? I'm doing a lot of talking.
The only question that I had, and I apologize, I don't know why you guys couldn't hear me earlier, but yes, I did have a buyer that was closing everything. But my question about the marketing is, who pays for the marketing? Is that coming out of the realtor's budget, or is it certain parts that we pay for, certain parts that the seller pays for?
Well, I pay for it, but I understand your question, and I know as a new realtor, it's difficult to have those expenditures out. But I pay for it, so, and I make it known to them that that's my expenses, you know what I mean? Now, if they're, for example, if it's somebody I don't know and I'm gonna stage I'm gonna include that, I'm gonna get my full 2.5%, but I'm gonna stage for you, Mr. Client. I make sure that in the contract, I write if they cancel for any reason, that they will pick up the moving costs. So at least I'm not out any money. But I take that on as my expense. And again, sometimes I charge for it. I've had one where I just charged for it outright, but a lot less than a staging company would, considering paying the designer fees and rentals. But the biggest portion of that is like moving costs. Marketing, I pay the photographer. Anything that I do, product wise, I pay for. I invested in a nice, laser printer so I can print my own brochures if I need to. If I have time, I'll have Heather do a design for me and then I'll print them myself. But, it's just all about, sometimes you're getting stuff done fast, and photography is like the day before it's going on the market, So it's just whatever you have time for.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does depend on your client as well, like what they expect out of you. So if it's if they want drone footage and Matterport and all that stuff, that's gonna come out of your expenses, because sometimes they expect the agent to do it. If it's if it's a multi-million-dollar listing, and sometimes if it's like say a $500,000 listing, sometimes pictures and some postcards will do just fine. But I spoke to Philip about it actually, and he usually budgets around $2,000 for marketing per listing.
Yeah.
And that includes like the pictures, the drone, whatever, the postcards, any other stuff that comes up. But yeah.
Yeah, and I know that's tough for new agents, but it's I think also something we were talking about last night. I don't think people realize that there are expenses in starting any business, and this business is no different. So I know that can be difficult, but it's something that you have to try to figure out. And there are people that have the client pay for the photographer and stuff. For me, that's just part of my service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicole, I'm sorry.
Right. I was going to say, yes, I understand that being a part of what we're going to pay for, because we get the money back when we get paid through our commission. But I guess the question, what you kind of answered was, let's say that you get a listing and the person decides, 15 days into the listing, I don't want to do this anymore, after you've already had the photography done and the marketing material, everything completed. That's just a loss that we take? Or is there a way that if they cancel, they pay for that?
Unless you've written it into the contract, it is a loss that you're going to take. to me though, like the photography is, yeah, I mean, and you write it off. I understand it doesn't help you in the moment, but you know, that's a tax write-off.
I write in the contract.
You read it in the
I would
contract,
write it.
yeah, I think that's Christine just joined here, you can't see her in the back. I think that you can write that stuff in, you know, in the places where I've charged for my own staging, I've written into the contract that they pay me X, Y, Z amounts out of escrow, and I don't take the money up front for it, I just take it out of escrow, which most staging companies won't do. So that's my carrot, you know, I decided that that would be helpful to me in marketing myself and those listing appointments and things that I know I can write off if I need to, or I charge if I can.
Yeah, so it's just,
I mean, there's some agents that charge a base fee and that's what it's for. I think it's, you know, if you look at our KW addendum terms, there's dates in there that you can, I think it's 595 or something like that.
575, yeah.
Yeah, for a buyer base fee, but again, you're not gonna get, if you do that, you're not gonna get it until the close of escrow. So you have to figure out how you're gonna pay for your marketing materials that you need in advance of the listing. And the more expensive the listing, the more you're gonna spend on marketing. Because, you know, drone shots and videos and, you know, and that's the expectation of some of those higher end listings.
Yeah, and now that we're out of COVID, just kind of what, I don't know what we are, right? So basically, but we can't.
We're not dying as much as we were before.
So
We're better.
yeah, we have the print materials now are prominent again, right? It has
Yeah.
The flyers,
Yeah.
the hard stock brochures, like, you know, like Linda said, it just all depends on the price point as to.
You can get free stuff though. I use list reports, listreports.com. You can get free stuff if you partner with a lender and put them on your brochure through there. They will pay for your brochure. So there's a lot of things, but you can just get the free stuff. So I'll do, if you look on my social media, like on the condo I just did, I put it's a list report, it's a link. And they're great because they also talk about schools and neighborhoods. So you can print a flyer that you choose your pictures. It actually goes and finds your listing. If you are registered on the site, when my listing goes active, it actually puts the marketing kit together for me and sends me an email. It's ready. Nice. So, you know, and it talks on the back. So it's a 2-page thing that you can print. And on the back, it's got schools and like stuff in the area. Restaurants and, you know, other things that are in that particular area that it's just providing based on the address. And if you're doing other people's open houses, that's what I did. And that's what I put on my social media. So it looked like it was me, my listing, but it wasn't. It was hosting somebody else's. You know, and I'll always put some place in the text because you can actually add or detract from the description hosted by Linda White.
Oh, nice.
So at least that I'm being honest, you know, if it's not my listing, but
All right, ask the listing agent, are you okay if I do this? Then they say yes, and I don't put them.
yeah. I mean, and again, if you're, from my standpoint, and you can, on this, if I'm having somebody do my open house, I feel like it's their time, they're doing it for free, whatever they get out of it, they get out of it, and I don't have a problem with them promoting themselves through it. I think that's only fair, if they're gonna be spending the time to do that. Not everybody does, so, and I know there are other, you know, there are agents that even have writers if they want to take money from you if you get anything out of that. I would just say, don't do that open house. You know, would you agree with that? Yeah. Because, you know, that's how I got started. Casey, I know that's how you got, you know, started doing, hosting other people's opening houses, and I'm sure you probably did the same. So. Yeah, and that's key. And she's like,
we need to talk.
yeah,
about-
she was, yeah, we should talk about how we get like my equipment stuff. I do a bunch of stuff. We were talking about that. Sorry, off topic.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if just to come, you know, do a ride along. I mean, you know, if I've got an open house and somebody wants to come and just hang out, come hang out, you know, learn stuff. maybe, you know, and if you're at my open house and you talk to a buyer and they want to write an offer, you get to do it, not me. So that's the way I work it. I love it.
All right, Casey, thank you for being on. So thank you, Linda, so much for a spur of the moment.
Happy
coming in
to.
impromptu. It was
Happy
amazing.
to.
There's so much great information and experience. It's just admirable. So thank you. The ones that who are left on, do you guys have any questions for Linda before we say goodbye?
Just comments.
Yeah, comments, experiences, anything that you want to share?
No, this has been amazing. I appreciate this class.
Great.
How did you be on 2 meetings, Nicole? I was on my other meeting. What happened?
On another meeting?
Yeah. you
Oh, so that's why we didn't hear from you.
No, you
All
heard
right.
from me.
Sorry, you're excused. We appreciate
Busted.
it.
Sorry.
All right, no right for you to LAX.
Okay, listen, and I encourage you guys, if
Thank you,
there's,
guys.
I was totally engaged in this meeting because this is definitely what I'm needing right now.
I
I
agree.
need to understand the listing part of it because I knew that there was going to be expense in getting it. And I think that's why I've been kind of shying away from going for the listings because I'm like, okay, that's going to be more money I'm going to have to pay out. And, you know, not knowing the unknown. Okay, you get a listing and with things right now sitting on the market longer, some people are canceling listings. I'm like, that's going to be a fee that I may lose, you know, I may lose money on. So
Yeah.
this has been
Well,
helpful
and
to
you,
know.
I mean, and there's no problem that just, if you just want to be a buyer's agent, that's great. I mean,
Mhm.
and if you're good at it, you will have an advantage. I can't tell you how many unattached buyers walked in, you know, especially the last year and a half into the listings, you know, who, or had agents that just wouldn't go out with them anymore because they were tired of trying. You know, and there's a lot of work and effort that goes into being a buyer's agent. It's a rare occasion that you go and are one and done. You're usually, you know, could be months of showing property. Which is also why it's really important to understand what they like and what they don't like, you know.
Mhm.
So, because you don't want to waste your time showing them things you know they're not going to be interested in.
But I will say to protect myself, and is this recorded stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, goody, I want to hear you, Linda. I love to know all that, so you had to say. But yeah, I always protect myself for that, and I haven't had to use it yet, but I have a little thing in there that, if for any reason that the seller wants to cancel, that they would reimburse me and sometimes I say marketing, but sometimes I also just say a flat fee, like if I say it's $5,000, whatever the number
The
is.
expenses,
Yeah, I just make it, and it's not, if that's what my fee is, because my time is a fee. Also, besides a material, you know, like I'm paying for something. So I usually have put that in. I always have put that in, but I haven't had to.
Just under, if you have an written, you know, a listing agreement, just under additional, you know, additional stuff, there's a place for it there, just type it in. Right. Or if you're doing a variable commission for dual agency, that's where you put that in too. Be sure, like Rich Pisani, be sure you check the variable in the box with your listing when you do it though. There is a place for that and you do, and that's the other thing. When you're writing an offer, you should always go look at the listing to see if there is a variable, because that can make a difference. And then if there is, I always ask that listing agent if they've written an offer. Because that tells me that they may have a percentage advantage. Not too many people think about that. So
Yeah, it's awesome. Good one. Fabuloso. Anything else? Monique, Joseph, Nika, Nicole?
That's it.
Well, for me, I just want to get that listing appointment so I could just try it out, you know, just hear the no or the option to proceed forward. It's just nothing to it but to do it. So that's what I'm waiting for, just to do it.
go knock on your neighbor's door.
Yep. It's time, you got to go. Yeah, so just, you know.
Hi, I'm
continue-
your local real estate agent. I just wanted to introduce myself. Here's my card or my flyer. And you know, if you're thinking of selling or know anyone that is, please contact me. I'm your local resource. Bye, on to the next door.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very informative.
Okay.
Thanks, Joseph.
Yeah. even with the cold calling, I've done that as well. And the door knocking, I like that more than cold calling because they can see me. And then this summer, I've even taken my kids and I'm like, yeah, my kids are in school here, you know? And yeah, so it's like a good conversation starter to say, hey, I'm your neighbor and I'm also a realtor. But in that same, my farm area, there are also multiple other realtors who have been in the business a long time who have multiple listings in the same area.
Yeah, so then, you know, you can address that with, you understand that, and often those people that have been in the business a really long time are not hungry and don't work as hard as you're gonna work for them because you haven't been and you're trying to establish yourself. So you appreciate that, they may have been there a lot longer, but you feel like you can do as good, if not better job because you are hungry and want it.
That's right. You said it. That's right.
Awesome, Monique. Just remember, the worst thing anyone is ever going to tell you is no. What's so bad about that? Nothing. Put that in your head. And when you hear yes, you're gonna go, oh crap, it wasn't no, it was yes. You know, it's just, you know, fear is not gonna get you the listing. You just have to, and don't feel defeated. It takes time, you know? Even with people that are well established. I say all the time, I'm not sure where the next one's coming from, and my son laughs because, you know, it's gonna, and he's right.
We're twins.
You know, it's always gonna,
We talked about that last night too.
it's always gonna, you know, once you get established, and again, you know, once if you had buyers or friends or like your parents, I mean, your parents, if you're young, are great resources for potential clients. Talk to them, ask them.
Plan a vacation. That's when you get it all, right?
You know, your church or a charity, or, you know, it's really wherever you can meet people and talk to them about what you do, you know what I mean? Or the industry. You have to remind people, even like people close to you, there's nothing worse than being a realtor and having a family member say, oh, I just sold my house and you didn't know about it. And then you say, oh, but what? And they go, oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
That should be a reminder that that's bad on you for not reminding people in some way, you know, every day, whether it's through your social media posts or your conversations, that you're a realtor.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not one of us that hasn't had that happen in their life.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm stupid.
Like seriously.
I'm so stupid.
Yeah, it happens, but you know, it doesn't have to happen to you guys. So crazy.
Be fierce. Go knock some doors.
Yeah, go crush it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
When will the video be available? I missed the beginning part.
It will be